I'm here this morning with Bill Taranto, the president of the Merck Global Health Innovation Fund. Bill, it's always interesting to hear what you have to say because you're kind of on the front lines of this AI revolution that we're in the middle of. What excites you most as we move forward?
Yeah, I think, ultimately, from where I invest, we invest in something called pharma services, which in its simplest form is if pharma needs the service, that's kind of where we invest. So it's not just about Merck, but it's about the industry, but it's across the continuum from R&D all the way through commercial. And what's most exciting right now, and I just was fortunate enough to do a small talk on AI and ML and drug discovery and the advances around the potential of getting drugs to market in a much faster period of time, right? Really excites us. And we're focusing on three areas. We're looking across chemistry, biology, and vaccines, and then multiple therapeutic areas. And the whole idea is, can we sort through reams and reams of information that a human can't do in at least a time period that one would want, and identify and validate a molecule or compound that gets it all the way through the development program into the market, and doing it 5 or 6 years faster than we do it today. And if you do that, drugs to market sooner means less expensive drugs, better outcomes and care for patients, which is ultimately what we're trying to do in saving patient lives. And so that's probably the most exciting area for us and probably where the majority of our investments in the last 3 years. We have some 15, 17 investments just at AML drug. The other interesting area that's exciting us, and most people don't talk about, and I just briefly mentioned it in my talk, was around the supply chain. Where AI is because it's all data, if you think about supply chain, and AI in using those kind of algorithms to better track raw materials coming in and finished goods going out. Pharma loses a lot of our medicines to theft, fraud, damaged goods. We ship it the wrong way. So how do you think about better understanding the logistics highway, if you will, by analyzing the data faster in a more sort of profound way using AI? And even creating things like digital warehouse twins, where you can have a digital twin of your warehouse, and if something falls off, we see it in the digital twin. And so using AI as a way to improve our cost efficiencies in the way we think about our supply chain is really big. And soon you'll actually start seeing it move to manufacturing. We're not quite there yet as an investor on the manufacturing side, but we're starting to think about it. And of course, we have to be a little careful on the access to care side, but AI is starting to creep in there. But we have to be very careful from around legal and ethical, reasons around the use of AI there, because we might find something out about a patient we didn't necessarily want to find out, right? And probably the last big area for us is real world evidence and data. That's still a big area of using AI to better understand the data that we're collecting for both pre-market and post-market analysis, for the pharma industry. So really exciting stuff. But I would still say that drug discovery, ANML and drug discovery and clinical development is probably the most exciting space.
Well, if you can shave 5 years off the development of a new drug, I mean, that's basically cutting that time in half. That's just a total game changer.
It's huge. It creates such efficiencies and hopefully better care. Now, ultimately, nothing's been validated yet, but we feel we're so close. We think within the next year, we will see a validated drug. And it doesn't, whether it's one of Merck's programs or someone else's, as long as somebody gets it done, compounds itself. It's just getting the first one be fully validated and out the door, and it'll just then snowball, as they say. So, very exciting.
One of the challenges that you talked about in your speech was talent and finding talent and competing with other. AI is growing exponentially and it's getting better exponentially at the same time. And it seems like you have to say, hey, we're over here,
Yeah, it's tough competing. I don't think people always understand when they're graduating and they have those types of degrees that life sciences is an option for them. I think the first thing they think about is, I need to go to a big tech firm like the Apples and Googles of the world and all these new big AI companies that are recruiting heavily that aren't in the life science space. But this is one of the fastest growing areas around the use of AIs within healthcare. So not just pharma, you think all parts of healthcare, from the hospital system to the payer to the provider, they're all going to be starting to adopt AI. So the availability of jobs, I think, in this area is going to grow exponentially. But recruiting them is hard because we may not be able to pay like the other industries perhaps pay, but there's all ways you can think about, compensating somebody to get them to join. But the bigger idea is just getting the word out that we exist. We're looking for your kind of talent, even though you might not think initially that, life science, I need to be a doctor, or I need to be, bench scientist. No, not necessarily, right? There's all the jobs that one can imagine exist in a big pharma, from accounting, finance, sales, marketing, what I do, venture. So one of the interesting jobs is, how do you think about using, this technology talent within, R&D?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's a great opportunity for the future of employment, for our industry.
2-3 years ago, we're all talking about the potential of AI in what we do, and now we're seeing it being executed and refined and gotten a lot better. How much more development do you think that's going to take, or is it just a matter of time before we have that breakthrough that you mentioned?
I think there's going to be the breakthrough in a shorter period of time, but think of it so we're in the infancy stage of AI in healthcare. If you think back when I started the fund in 2010, I was use this analogy, monitoring was brand new. And today we can monitor everything. The devices are so small, they collect so much data, and there's almost anything you can't monitor. But if you think back in 2010, we couldn't monitor anything.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, probably the only area was being used was in cardiovascular. But the growth over a 15-year period, it's ubiquitous now. I think we're in the infancy stage of the use of AI. We're still learning how to use it properly. What are the effects of it? But it just takes these breakthroughs that then starts to snowball everything. But I still think we're in the infancy stage of the use of AI.
Mm-hmm. How important is it for you to keep coming back to HITLAB summits and talk to people and interact and find out what's going on?
So I do this for a couple different reasons. Everybody always asks me, it's a way to give back, but it's about community. And in order to make healthcare work, you have to build a community amongst all the players within the system, right? Whether it's the regulatory people, whether it's payers, providers, patients, investors, entrepreneurs. It's a whole community that needs to work together, because the ecosystem can't work with point solutions, right? It needs to be an integrated solution of people working together and systems working together. And what HITLAB does, aside from what HITLAB in and of itself, from the science side of validating, technologies, the Breakthrough Alliance is the community part. And that's obviously where I come in as chair of the Breakthrough Alliance in the United States, is how do we grow this community, and how do we give back to the community? And as you saw, that was announced, this year we did a full launch in Europe. So we now have a counterpart to me in Europe. And our goal at the end of the year is to announce an Asia Pacific lead and do a launch next year in Asia Pacific. So how do we keep growing this? And then the year after that, Latin America. So keep growing the community and the Breakthrough Alliance on a global basis, because healthcare is global, right? And community is global, and people that need healthcare, it's everywhere. It's not limited to the United States. People get sick everywhere, and people need good healthcare, good outcomes, good access to healthcare. Mm-hmm. And it all starts with building the community, and that's why I come to all these events for that HITLAB.
Yeah, it's important to stay out front.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
All right, Bill. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.